Welcome everybody to the big show. Today, we're gonna talk about why dealerships lose their customers to independent shops. And the list is very personal too. Let me introduce you to Christian. Say hello, Christian.
Hello, everyone.
He's got a story and it's very personal. He's very upset, but it's very relevant. So we're gonna go through 5 reasons why we, as dealerships, lose our customers to independent shops. We're going to talk about an upcoming trip we have, and we're gonna clarify something that was in a lot of the comments from a show we did earlier. What is the definition of net to gross? We're gonna go through that for everybody. That and much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. So before we get to the other stuff, we are headed to the beautiful state of Florida again. I feel like we keep going back
it's
and
become
forth.
a regular occurrence for us too.
But we've had a couple, you could say friends, you could say clients,
A little bit of both,
that
for sure.
have let us practice our new leadership training on them.
Yeah.
And then this is how it's kind of gone. Like there's some things to it that are a little different than what people expect. And so in the beginning, they're like, what did we get ourselves into? And then by the end,
They're enlightened.
Yeah. But years ago, we came up with this manifesto it's more internal. But it was that if you go to an art gallery and you look at a piece of art and you enjoy that piece of art, you stare at it for hours. As soon as you leave the art gallery, you no longer can recreate that piece of art in your mind, right?
Right.
So if you go to an art gallery and you look at a Picasso, what would be a piece of art that you would enjoy?
Oh, you could certainly say Picasso. I also really like the water lilies. It's at the museum in New York. And
Like the Monets? Or?
Yeah, the Monets.
Okay. For me, there's one at LACMA called The Orator. Remember I showed you that one?
Yes.
I used to go stare at that before they tore the building down. Now they have it in a weird room, but I used to go sit there and just stare at it for hours. And when you leave, you can't recreate it. Like you can stare at it for hours, but it's so unique that there's no way you can reimagine it in your mind. And that is what a lot of training is like you go to training, but then when you leave, you go back to your old problems, you go back to your old habits, and it really isn't that effective. You might have some new ideas, but it's really not that effective. And so our manifesto that we wrote years ago was, just like a piece of art in a gallery, when you're there with it, you can see it, but when you leave, you can't recreate it. Our training will be different. It will stick with you. It will change you. It will empower you. It will weaponize you, and it will make a difference. And we're not just training people to be managers. We're training people for life. It transcends because if you learn a skill and start to have success with that skill, then it raises your self-esteem, and then you become a better father, a better wife, a better citizen, that sort of thing. So they've been nice enough to let us try this leadership training, but the leadership training is different because we're trying to get a different effect.
That's right.
And so we're approaching it in a different way, and we're actually building right here where we sit. The reason why we bought this building with no air conditioning and parking is so
That was a nice little slide in
so
there.
we
That
have
was good.
You know what I've been telling my friends when they're talking about their investments in crypto or whatever, I go, what we specialize in buying and turning around buildings with no parking.
Right.
And they look at me like, what? This building literally has no parking.
Oh, that's funny. And I do.
And by no parking, I mean 0. I don't mean there's 2 little parking spots. The building goes right to the street. Our neighbors are on that side. There's an apartment building on that side. There is no parking. I park sometimes on the sidewalk, but I usually get a parking ticket. So it costs me $60 or whatever. I don't know.
It's almost worth it, but
yeah, almost.
It's funny, like the whole no air conditioning thing kind of has me thinking about that, because this trip I've got mixed emotions about it because I love the leadership stuff, and I think that every time you've done it.
Well, you're going with me.
Yes, so
because
I'm
you've been
going
helping
with.
me, and
Yes.
Christian is a great partner in the sense that he is paying attention to the effect it's having, and he has really good ideas, and so it's priceless for me to get his feedback because he's experiencing it as it evolves, and he's had some good input in it. So you're going with me nicely.
So that part I really enjoy.
And also
doing.
you get to hang out with me.
Yeah, we have. I don't think there's ever been a time we've gone somewhere and not had fun out of something, but I'm
glad you feel that way.
Yeah, because sometimes you get a little grumpy, especially on the Florida trips.
Oh, I'm grumpy already.
Yeah, I feel like you're already dreading it,
I
aren't you?
already know the feeling when I get off the plane in that tube that connects the plane to the airport. The humidity, the heat in Florida, I already hate everything about it. And then I'm trying to figure out what to wear. So last time we were in Florida, I brought suits. I literally put on the suit and I was sweating in the hotel room and I hadn't packed any, I really struggled. So I don't know what to pack. I can't show up and do this leadership thing in dolphin shorts and a tank top.
Probably not. Although they'd appreciate it. Yeah.
But it's not the right frame. And so, I hate everything about it already. Why can't we do it somewhere like Maine?
Why can't our friends live in the cool climate?
Well, like in Maine, they're like, oh my God, it's so nice today. It's 80.
Right. 77. And 4% humidity.
So I'm unbearable to travel with though, right? I'm a prima donna.
A little bit.
The older I get, the less patience I have for anything.
I think that the thing that's funny is that every time we go somewhere and then you get off the plane, first thing is if I'm not with you and you've gone by yourself and you get off the plane, you text me like, oh, the humidity just hit me. It can be 10 in the morning and I'm like, oh, Chris landed, that's great. And then the other thing is that immediately after you get off the plane, you're like, why did I do this? And every time we go through this little thing, it's like, you're like,
I agreed to do it, but why did I do it?
Yes, you agreed to do it. You're good, and then I'm there trying to reconvince you why you took the opportunity in the first place. And then when you're done, you're like, I'm so glad we did that. We should do it again. And I'm like, no, please, no. It's funny though.
I've gotten better at saying no to everything.
Yeah, and I think that it makes it more special when you go somewhere. At the end of the day, because
for them, not for me.
Yeah, because it doesn't make you complain less.
It's a pain in the ass. Ugh.
So funny.
So it is funny. So we had a couple people on YouTube post this in the comments from a video we did. Well, a show that we did, but they're posting it on YouTube in the comments, which is a video. And this one's Joe. He said, fantastic, excellent video. I think this was sage advice. What does that mean?
Wise, like wisdom. Sage is
nice.
Good.
Thanks, Joe. But then at the end, he says, I do wish you guys would better explain gross to net.
Yep.
And then Brian on here said, enjoyed the video. What is gross to net definition? Does that include fixed expenses like the rent? So I thought we should just make a little do an explanation, do an explanation of what that is. So understand that everybody's financial, depending on the brand, whether you're an independent, is a little bit different. But net to gross is taking the net profit number and dividing it into the gross profit number. So it's like what percentage of your gross is left over as net. Now, if you're profitable, the easy formula to remember for this, and this only applies if you're profitable, the little number into the big number. So let's say, just for round numbers, you made $10,000 in profit and you did $100,000 in gross. You would take the $10,000 and divide it into the $100,000, which would give you
10% net to gross.
So 10% of your gross is net. Now, what should it be? That, I don't know. What's the highest we have in the elite group? What are they doing?
In the 50s.
They're knocking on mid
60.
Yeah. So, the industry standard, I think when you look at the report NADA does every couple years, they put in their sales to gross, but you can kind of figure out that most of the industry on average is around 8% net to gross. We think 30% is kind of the starting point, but we have a lot of clients above 30%. So 30% is a step on your way to 40, 50%. But that is the formula. So it's taking your profit and dividing it into your gross. Now, there's a couple variables here you should understand. manufacturers look at it different, right? So let's take a Ford Financial, for example. The way that Ford looks at it is they, on the profitability side, have two profit numbers. They have the profit number that is just controllable expenses. And then they have on another page that most service managers never see, the fixed expenses. And so they will have the adjusted net and then the actual net after fixed expenses. So a lot of times if you're talking to a Ford service manager and you're like, what's your net to gross? And he says 60%. And then you say, oh, what is it on page, now it's page 2, but it used to be.
Page 2 is the magic page right now.
It used to be page 6. But now on page 2 it shows, and then they'll go, oh, well, I'm negative 5% net to gross.
The first number is always so much nicer, isn't it?
Yeah, on a Ford statement. Now let's take, for example, a BMW statement. A BMW statement, the expenses of the service advisors, the warranty administrator, I think the shuttle driver. I'd have to read the BMW accounting manual, but those are split with parts. And so the theory is with some of the manufacturers that service advisors are selling parts, warranty administrator is claiming parts, so those should be split 50-50 with the parts department. Some manufacturers don't do that. They take a percentage of the back counter gross and they move it in what they call a parts gross transfer to the service department. So the service department will have their profitability after fixed expenses, and then there'll be an addition of the parts transfer, and then they have an adjusted net. So then they will say before or after the parts transfer, right? And so it just depends on the manufacturer how the expenses are allocated, how parts and service split things. There are manufacturers that the advisors and everything all go to service and parts just gets everything, and it is what it is. So it depends on that.
I've never really got hung up on that because I feel like at the end of the day, the number at the bottom is always the same.
And let's just not assume that everybody knows what gross is. So let's just go one step further, just to clarify. So the difference between sales and gross is the cost of the technician. That's it. So it's the direct cost of the technician. Now you usually will have unapplied labor in there, which means the technicians that are clocked on for training, that if you have guarantees and they don't meet the guarantees, if you have quick lube techs, any inefficiencies in the shop still go against the sale. Usually, if you're doing the accounting right. Like sometimes we'll go in and we'll run expenses, and in personnel, they'll have a bunch of quick lube techs, but that's not the right place to put it. The right place to put it is in adjusted cost of labor, or actually, charge the quick lube tech to the job, pay them for the job, and then take what isn't covered at the end of a pay period and put that to adjusted cost of labor. But the difference between sales and gross is the cost of the technician. So once again, nice round numbers. If you are selling an hour of labor, your effective labor rate is $100. So you sell 1 hour of labor for $100, and it costs you $25, and this is the old days, this shows my age, that you're paying the tech $25 to perform that hour, and they're 100% efficient, then what is your gross?
$75.
And then what is your gross profit percentage?
75%.
So to get your gross profit percentage, you would divide your gross into your sales, and that would give you the percentage. So many of you have probably heard, your gross profit percentage should be 72, 75. We think it should be closer to 78 to 80.
Yeah, I usually shoot for 75 to 80, depending on the brand, because I've noticed that there's certain brands, especially if you have a.
We definitely, with our thought process, are higher than everybody in what we expect.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can achieve it.
You have to think a little differently.
So, gentlemen, hopefully that answers your question, and I know we gave you a little more, but it's the net divided into the gross, and that shows you how healthy you are as a leader.
Yep, and I don't think I've ever seen a leader that is looking at that number that doesn't make their department better. That's the one.
Anything you give energy to is going to grow.
Agreed.
Now, let's get to the 5 reasons customers leave dealerships for independence?
Only 5?
I would like to say at the top of this that this was Christian's idea. He came up with this list. I think it's a really good list. He came up with this list. You're going to find out in a minute because he had an experience. So this comes from real pain and a real experience that happened to him recently. So
super sensitive.
In the time that he had during that experience, he came up with a list, and it's a good list, and we're going to talk about it. But let's give it a little bit of context. Car dealerships lose after warranty is out, so after customers aren't obligated to go to the dealership, on average about 80% of the customers. So 80% of the customers end up going to an independent after their warranty expires. During warranty, it kind of tapers off by year, really. The first year's less, second year, but it still drops even during warranty for maintenance and things like that. They will go to an independent or to a quick lube, that sort of thing.
In some cases, even when they can get it for free, they pay to go other places, right?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
They do. They'll rather pay than get it covered for free. And here's the thing. A lot of you listening to this and you're saying, not me, not my dealership. No, yeah, right. It's you. If you're saying that, it's you. Trust me. 80% end up going to independents in an environment. This is important. In an environment where you have the one thing that everybody would want, the biggest advantage, the most leverage, is as a dealership, you have home field advantage. You sold them the car. You have the same brand. You have a parts department full of the parts,
from the factory.
You have technicians that are only trained on that vehicle, right? Like, think about if you're a tech in an independent shop, you're working on a BMW, then a Honda, then a Volkswagen. Like, you have to, and then you're working on a diesel truck or whatever. Like, you're working on so many different brands with different issues, different personalities, different philosophies on engineering and manufacturing, right? Like, think about the design philosophy of a GM product versus a Volkswagen. Like, just
night and day.
Yeah. And so as a tech, you have to navigate all of that. And, there's resources out there, but they're not the same as at a dealership. Like, if you're a Volkswagen tech at a dealership, you can call Volkswagen and they will help you. And if they can't help you, they'll send somebody out. Volkswagen isn't sending anybody out for an independent shop, right? So in an environment where you have home field advantage, you have the advantage of the manufacturer, inside track, the special tools, all the things that you have at the end of the obligation. 80% of people say they would rather go somewhere else. Yeah. Okay? And so the first one is the one that you have the story for, that I've experienced also. And so we're going backwards, right? So we're starting with number 5.
Yeah,
you think these are in order of importance?
Yeah.
Number 5 is that we don't make the appointment easy. So making the appointment, getting somebody on the phone to make an appointment, and if we do make it easy to make an appointment, we're booked out so far, it doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
Cue the story.
So over the weekend, my girlfriend has a Toyota, and she drives roughly 100 miles a day. So just if you're doing quick math, we need to service that thing every 2 months. So we're a pretty high regular servicing customer. So on Friday night, I checked to see if there were any online appointments available at the Toyota Center where we bought the vehicle
and
from.
She clearly defaults to you for any sort of service.
Very much, as she probably should. So it just makes sense, right? I'm like, okay, so we need an oil change and a tire rotation. Pretty simple service. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as we go through this. I have a feeling you'll probably knock the answers out of the ballpark. But we're like, okay, so it's a Saturday. I'm going to guess it's probably, we kind of allotted 3 hours is what we thought it would take to go somewhere without an appointment, get an oil change, get a tire rotation, and then be on our way. So we kind of planned it out, and then we're going to go to somewhere that was a little further out than where the dealership was that we were getting the service done. So we kind of planned a day around it. And so we get there at 8:45. So we left our place at about 8:15. And 8:45, pull up, and then there's what I would call a greeter cabana that's outside, and there's a nice young man that says, he says, "Good morning." And that was a highlight of the visit. But he says, "Good morning." I said, "Hello, good morning."
The highlight is it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah, it was the best part of it was that the young man was pleasant and said, "Good morning." And I said, "Yeah, he's like, how can we help you today?" I said, "I need to get a tire rotation and an oil change." And he says the question that I never want asked to a customer, which we've talked about this before, but what do you think that nice young gentleman asked me?
Do you have an appointment?
"Do you have an appointment?" And I said, "No, I don't have an appointment." So he puts
Wait, so did you try to make an appointment?
Well, there was none available. So I tried on Friday night, but there was no appointments available for the Saturday
When
morning.
was the next appointment?
Oh, good question. So it was roughly around like 3 weeks out
So it's 3 weeks?
for an oil change.
And so this is the dealership she bought the car at?
Yep, it
It was the number one Toyota dealership for a long time? I don't think
Yeah.
it is anymore, right?
They sell a lot of banners that say that they're number one.
They're number one? I thought somebody else was in
I
Florida.
heard that too in Hollywood, Florida specifically, I think. But they do a lot of business, no matter what. Like whether they're number one or
I just
not.
want to make the point that a lot of people listening to this are like, "Oh, not us. We're not us." We're talking about this is the example for customer service.
Yeah.
The creme de la creme, what people aspire to be in our industry, booked out 3 weeks for an oil change.
That's right.
Okay.
So then we pull,
So you decide, I'm just going to drive in.
and let's get the oil change.
And was going to
yeah.
Jiffy Lube ever an answer?
Never.
Why?
Because I like to service at the dealer personally. I like the maintenance records. They let you know if there's any recalls. There's a lot of advantages, in my opinion, to servicing at the dealer. But that might change one day. So he directs us into this line, lane number 1, which had 7 people in front of us. Okay, so I'm like, oh, okay. So
Do those people have an appointment or do you
no?
know?
We're in the no appointment line.
There's a no appointment
There's
line.
a no appointment line.
So like detention at school.
It totally felt like detention at school. So that was 8:45 that we got into that line, and we sat there. We sat there for a really, really long time. At around 10:10.
What are you listening to on the radio during this?
Oh, what was I listening to?
You listening to a book?
No, because I had my son and Claudia in the car, so we were just regular conversation, maybe a little bit of music in the background. But the music probably got old really, really fast.
Okay.
So
what time did they come out?
10:10. They didn't
You've
come
been
out.
sitting there. Oh, they didn't come out.
Hour and 25 minutes. An hour and 25
Sit there an
minutes.
hour and 25
Yep.
minutes in the detention line.
And we were just getting frustrated, right? So my girlfriend gets out of the car because that's where she's at,
she's
right?
By the way, she's 3 feet tall.
3'8". Yeah, she's not of high stature, but she
She
definitely
has a big presence for a little.
I would agree with that. So she goes out and then she starts asking for the manager. So this was my favorite part.
At no time are you like, I should just leave?
So
you at this point, you want to experience this?
Well, I did. After an hour, I'm like, okay, I want to see how this plays out, because the thing I keep playing in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, this is probably, I'm not abnormal. Like, that was a normal experience for someone that goes there.
You're not afraid you're going to recognize anybody?
No, I don't mind either way.
Really? Okay.
But I get there and she goes and she finds the manager, the drive manager. And so she's like,
she doesn't know enough about our industry to know that drive manager is basically an advisor.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she goes to him and she's like, don't you think it's terrible that it's been an hour that we've been here and no one's even talked to us yet? And the drive manager immediately his name's immediately goes
Don't
and
say his name.
Hey,
How do you know his name?
But immediately, this is why I'm just amazed.
gotta bleep
by
that
this. Okay. But the drive manager goes to her, well, you wouldn't be in this situation if you made an appointment.
Oh, it's great.
Like,
Great.
love it. Make it about the customer's fault.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it is your fault.
Yeah, totally. So notwithstanding the fact that if I did make an appointment, I would have to wait almost a month to get in for my oil change, right? So we go back.
Somebody
and
who drives 100 miles a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we service every 6-8
it's
weeks.
way overdue at that point.
Yeah. So even doing it next week instead of this last week.
You'd have to really plan ahead.
Yes. So so we get back in, and then this guy comes up and he's like, well, I'm going to take your information down. It was a porter. And that was another thing that was really interesting. More porters than advisors. So I don't know that I'd ever seen that before. There were roughly 5 people in this non-appointment detention line. And of the 5 advisors, how many do you think were really riding cars?
Well, the thing I love about that story is the arrogance of it all.
Yeah, it's so
They're
wonderful.
so arrogant, and they really they're really stuck in a time bubble.
Yeah, but of the 5 advisors, 2 were actually helping people out. So this porter says, here, I'm going to take down your information, and then I'm going to have you guys go inside. They'll call you when it's time to write you up. So it was like a pre-write to the write-up. And I don't know about you, anytime I'm separated from the car and it's not written up, like I feel like I'm falling into the abyss. Like that's just a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
So this is 10:15 by the time we get out and we go into the waiting room. And after a little while, I get a phone call on my cell phone. I can see the guy dialing, and he was super helpful. It was super sweet. He's like, hey, I'm so sorry.
Say his name.
Okay. He's like, I'm so sorry about the wait. I know it's a little bit crazy here. And you know, we've really blown up on Saturdays and this, that, and the other thing is like, I see you're due for your, a 30,000 mile checkup. And I'm like, yeah. And
you're like, I looked at the website. You're booked out 3 weeks. I just thought I'd come in and be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So I didn't say that exactly. But the thing that was just amazing to me.
Just wanted to see what number 1 in the country's like.
Right. And then, we go through it. I'm like, okay, so let's get it done. He's like, he tells me the price, all that other stuff. And he's like, and by the way, I just want to let you know that your vehicle will not be completed until 5 o'clock today. I think he actually technically said between 4 and 5. This was at 10:25 in the morning. So got there at 8:45. The other thing
that's interesting about this story is you drove, that's a ways.
20 minutes.
Yeah, but it's not like a shuttle drive. Like, they're not going to have a shuttle to bring you back downtown.
No. So, but
there's a Toyota store downtown.
Yeah, there is. It's true.
It's an odd loyalty to that place.
Well, it was also, part of it was,
If you asked me for $25,000, would you go spend the day?
That's so funny.
It's not where I'd want to spend my Saturday.
But literally, if there's any Toyota dealers in the greater Los Angeles area that can do an oil change and tire rotation in less than 8 hours or 9 hours, I'd be interested in hearing from you.
There's plenty, I'm sure.
But that's crazy. I've never heard that before. That was the most extreme condition. And all I could think of as I was leaving is like, they sell a bunch of cars, right? They sell 2,000-3,000 cars a month. And how many people a day do they make so mad that they don't ever come back? Like, I'm out, I won't go back. But I can't be the only one that feels that way.
Well, they clearly don't care.
They don't have to, I guess. I don't know what the deal is, but it was so disappointing. The whole thing was just terrible to me. Never seen anything like it. But so to go along with your number 5 is that the dealers aren't making it super easy to go do service.
Yeah, and so let's just double down on this point because we talked about it before, but I want to remind everybody the number 1 thing we hear when I'm doing strategy sessions is we'll go through the numbers, and then the leadership will say, what we really need, Chris, is we really need our advisors trained. The reason why we're not selling more is our advisors aren't selling more. They need trained. Some version of that.
Yes.
And then I'm looking at this question on our questionnaire, and it says, how far out are you booked? Every time lately. It's like 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
2 weeks.
Yep.
And I'm like, let me tell you, because I was an advisor. You're not going to sell anything if you can't get it done.
No, if they've waited 2 weeks to get in front of you.
The key to getting advisors to sell more might not be Chris Collins' advisor training, although I would love you to buy our advisor training.
Yes.
But it might be to have more techs.
Yeah.
In every situation, your problems are fixed by the capacity in the shop. Because advisors are not, we can't put all this pressure on advisors to take care of customers and then ask them to sell something they can't get done that'll piss off like, also like if you got, here's what happens when you're an advisor is, yeah, maybe you can sell something on this car, but you got 3 that haven't seen the shop yet that made an appointment 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
And then this clown drives in without an appointment. Then you wrote him up. And you tried to scare him away by saying it wouldn't be done until 5, and he said, okay.
Let's do it.
You stayed
No,
until
I
5?
left. We left.
Oh, you got in the car and left.
We got in the car and left.
So right now she's driving around a car that has past due oil?
Tomorrow she'll be past due. We were a few hundred miles early.
What are you going to do?
Find somewhere else to get the thing serviced.
Yeah, these guys down here are clients.
Okay, I should take it there.
We can call somebody and then maybe, I don't know. You are a Christian.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll recognize you. Okay, that's a good one. Most people listening to this though are like, no, that's not us.
Just in case, check.
It's you.
Yeah.
Number 4, value perception. And this is we debated this one for a little bit because what happens is we look at numbers from dealerships all the time. We look at numbers from independents all the time. A lot of times independents have a higher effective labor rate and a higher gross profit percentage on parts.
Yep.
And dealerships perceive that it's price. And the dealerships are lower on price, but they're still losing to the independents who have a higher margin.
Yep.
And the reason is not the price, it's the value perceived of the price. Because we think that we're selling oil changes and we're selling emotions, we're selling people feeling important, people feeling like we care about them, people feeling like they're just not another, cow running through the cow mill or another passenger on Southwest Airlines. It's just another number. You're A2, you're B7. People don't want to feel like they're just a commodity, and that's what we make people feel like. They're just cattle running through. So if we stop and we actually make friends with them, make them feel a little different, the price is not the concern.
Yeah, it's so funny. So I do some direct coaching with a few of our independent clients, and believe it or not, more often than not, first off, their financials are usually really, really healthy in a lot of cases. But the thing that we're always talking about is how do we connect better with our clients? They're always talking about that. They're always thinking about how do we create a better experience? They're so focused on the experience, and they know that the pricing, the value, all that follows it. And it's so great.
Well, that segues into number 3 perfectly, is in a car dealership, the service and parts departments are afterthoughts. In an independent shop, the only business they're in is servicing customers.
It is the
So
thought.
their priority, the thing that they're worried about is servicing customers. In a dealership, most of the time the service department can depend on warranty. The customers are kind of coming in either way, but we don't look at it as the only business. It's an afterthought. And so there's more ownership, there's more care for the customers on the independent side than in the dealerships because it's the only thing they got.
Yeah.
They don't have the other streams of income. In a dealership, you have 5 or 6 businesses, right? You have the new car sales, you have used cars, you have finance and insurance and extended warranties, you have service parts, and then maybe you have a body shop. Maybe that's the variable. An independent shop, you got parts and service. That's it. That's your business.
Yeah, and without your customers, you have absolutely none of that. So
that's number 3. Number 2 is parts departments in dealerships are a one-trick pony. They really are a one-trick pony. So an independent shop, most of the time, will have a bunch of different ways to source parts. They'll have a bunch of options for customers. And especially right now where we have an issue with supply chains, dealerships literally would rather put a customer in a loan car for a month or tell a customer to come back in a month than go somewhere else and get the part. In fact, we have service managers in our coaching group that have ordered parts and written a PO to fix cars because their parts department refused to go outside of the manufacturer, their one-trick pony in that sense. Which would be a great episode for the new show that Christian's doing and hosting. called Parts Hold.
It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. So how many of you recorded like 6?
6. We got
We're
6
gonna do a
episodes
couple
in.
more before we start releasing them, but we're really excited about that. And we're not saying this to hurt anybody's feelings. We're just telling you the truth. If it hurts your feelings, it might mean because there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
And then the last one, number 1, go ahead.
Is that independent shops are masters of advertising and marketing.
Because they have to be.
And they have to be. They have no choice.
Service departments in a dealership have a built-in customer base because they sell them the car. They have to come there for warranty, so they don't really think about marketing. But when you think about marketing, you think about how expensive it is to get a customer or keep a customer, you put more care into the customer.
That's right. Yeah. I think that the independent shops work 10 times harder to get our customers than we do to keep our customers. Another statistic I found is that independent shops use up to 8% of their annual revenue on marketing. So if you figure you got $1 million a year business, which isn't a ton of money, but that they're putting $80,000 a month towards that, or $80,000 a year towards advertising, divide that out by 12. So what is that? It's almost $7,000 a month. I rarely see a service department that does more than $7,000 a month.
Well, if they are doing 7 and you look at it, most of the time it's new car advertising moved to the service department.
Yeah, exactly. It's not real. It's not pure marketing.
Nobody's sitting there going, hey, we're going to spend this much and we're going to make it as effective as we can. We're going to test. We're going to try different things. We're going to track it, right?
Yep, exactly. It's not there. It's an afterthought at best.
Yeah. So let's go through the list again. Number 5 is ease of making an appointment, getting in. Number 4 is the value perceived by the customer and how important they feel. Number 3 is that service is an afterthought, not the main business in a dealership. Number 2 is parts is a one-trick pony. And the number 1 reason why customers go to independents over dealerships is dealerships are we're not marketers.
Good list.
Yeah. And when we're making this list, we're assuming this guilt too. We're a part of this industry. We understand, but the truth is the truth. Whether it hurts or not, the truth is the truth. And we can take this information and try to get better. We can use it as a motivator, or we can make all the excuses and talk about, oh, Christian's crazy, blah, blah, blah. He's not. Well, he's crazy, but he's not crazy the way you mean it.
It's a fair statement.
And I would like to point something out as we wrap up the show. Because of the seriousness of this issue to Christian and how butthurt he is, he did not crack one joke.
I'm a little elevated, yeah.
That's true. There was not. Is this the first show where you never cracked?
There might have been one other where we had like really intense guests.
You were emotionally affected by this. You're pissed.
Yeah.
You feel let down by the iconic Toyota.
Yeah, I had low expectations and they still let me down.
They exceeded that.
You always tell me the key to happiness is low expectations. They were low and they blew it.
Clearly not low enough.
Terrible.
I would have told you not to go there. I've never.
Well, I mean, I am kind of a loyal person like that. I mean, and we'd gone for all of the. I don't remember if I said this or not. We'd gone for all the free service. Like, I really kind of expected something special out of the first one that we pay for. But it was the exact opposite. It made me never want to spend money there again.
Wow, you left that out of the story. So how many free ones did they give you?
5. This was number 6.
Yeah. And so think about that for a second, to the point of that's when people leave, is when it's no longer free. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We hope you have a good week, and we will see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.